Word meanings by Srila Prabhupada. Dravya of objects. Upalabdhi of perception. Sthanasya of the place. Dravya of objects. Iksha of perception. Ayogyata, incapability. Yada, when. Tat, that. Panchatvam, death. Aham manat, from the misconception of I. Utpatti, birth. Dravya, the physical body. Darshanam, viewing. Yatha, just as. Akshano, of the eyes. Dravya, of objects. Avayava, parts. Darshana, of seeing. Ayogyata, incapability. Yada, when. Tada, then. Eva, indeed. Chakshusha, of the senses of sight. Drashtu, of the seer. Drishtva, of the faculty of seeing. Ayogyata, incapability. Anayo, of both of these. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. When the eyes lose their power to see color or form due to morbid affliction of the optic nerve, the sense of sight becomes deadened. The living entity, who is the seer of both the eyes and the sight, loses his power of vision. In the same way, when the physical body, the place where perception of objects occurs, is rendered incapable of perceiving, that is known as death. When one begins to view the physical body as one's very self, that is called birth. Purport. When one says, I see, this means that he sees with his eyes, with his spectacles, or with his spectacles. He sees with the instrument of sight. If the instrument of sight is broken or becomes diseased or incapable of acting, then he, as the seer, also ceases to act. Similarly, in this material body, at the present moment, the living soul is acting, and when the material body, due to its incapability to function, ceases, he also ceases to perform his reactionary activities. When one's instrument of action is broken and cannot function, that is called death. Again, when one gets a new instrument for action, that is called birth. This process of birth and death is going on at every moment by constantly bodily change. The final change is called death, and acceptance of a new body is called birth. That is the solution to the quest of birth and death. Actually, the living entity has neither birth nor death, but is eternal, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. The living entity never dies, even after the death or annihilation of this material body. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखावितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यईश्वरम् Um, I don't have any qualification to be sitting here, no realization to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. His Grace Shyam Kishore Prabhuji asked me to speak as a service. I'm going to try and speak something. Anyway, Srimad Bhagavatam is so pure. So I was saying I have no qualification to be speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam and no realization also. His Grace Shyam Kishore Prabhuji asked me to speak so as a service to the temple to the Guru, and I'm going to try and repeat their words. Please bless me that I'm able to speak and glorify Srimad Bhagavatam appropriately. So, this verse, in this verse, Kapila Muni talks, his instructions, he talks about the movement of living entities. So, how a soul, when it takes on a particular body, a particular physical body, we are actually thrown into a physical body with a particular set of parents, particular mother, particular father, and it is all by higher arrangement. Nobody of us can say that we can decide when we will take birth, where we will take birth. It is all a higher arrangement. So, in this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, particularly, Kapila Muni is talking very strongly to his mother, Devahuti, about the nature of living entities, how a soul in a particular body is, right? And in the previous verses, we have seen the verses are strong, and how Kapila Muni is talking about how a soul is either in a female body or in a male body, and how what are we supposed to do and think when we are in a particular body. So there are three things that are seen in this verse, and this verse talks about. So the first thing is the seer, the person who's actually seen, which is the soul. The second thing is the mechanism by which we see, and those are the eyes. And the third thing is the object of vision. So the object of vision are so many different things. Basically, um, this verse is gradually trying to cut, the false identification that we have with the material body, and also trying to tell us how our senses are limiting our abilities. Okay, so how a soul takes on a body. Okay, and when a soul gets covered by the body, its perception is limited. Why? Because at that time we are dependent on the senses. Everything we do is through the senses. So the soul, in one way, gets covered. Although normally, such functions are not limited by the body, but when we get on that body, it does feel like that. Like how in the translation it's written, right? When the eyes lose their power to see color or form due to morbid affliction of optic nerve, the sense of sight becomes deadened. So we are dependent on the senses, and when the eye gets affected, affliction means the word affliction means giving a lot of pain or distress. So the sense of sight becomes deadened. We cannot see. Okay, so at this point of time, it feels like we are dependent on the senses. For example, there is some problem with the brain, then we cannot think clearly, right? But if we actually see thinking, feeling, and willing is not dependent on the sense of the body. It is actually a characteristic of the soul. But it doesn't feel like that. When a soul gets embodied, then it gets covered. And then we feel we are being dependent on the senses. It feels like we are actually the body only. We forget who we really are, and we feel we are this body. All our activities are dependent on the body. So, just by mere philosophical understanding that we keep on saying, we are not this body, we are pure spirit soul, it doesn't sink in. We feel, no, we are the body. Any problem that happens, it happens to the senses. And it makes us feel we are the body because the senses are acting on us. So, we are always in control of the body in one sense. So many times we hear, even children, even people who go to office, they have this phenomena of Monday blues. People don't want to get up and go to work. Children don't want to go to school. Why? Probably it's dependent on the activities they have done over the weekend or the food they have eaten. Something like that. So the point that I'm trying to make is we are always in control of the body and the bodily senses. But what is quite interesting and amazing is to see how exalted devotees they rise above the bodily concept, right? They are also human beings only, right? They are Mahabhagavats, we understand, but they are also in this body, but they rise above the bodily concept. And how do they do that? Like, for example, the six Goswamis. What were six Goswamis doing? They were always engaged in writing, composing scriptures, remembering the Lord, fulfilling the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In that process, they forgot to eat, they forgot to sleep, there was no time. Uh, okay, now somebody may say that is six Goswamis far away. What about Srila Prabhupada? Srila Prabhupada suffered two heart attacks while coming to US on the ship. Now we so casually say, right, suffered two heart attacks. Ask a person who has suffered heart attack. Heart attack is not something you suffer now and within 5 minutes you will be fine. The whole body gets disturbed. They have to be taken care. It's a very painful situation and a very difficult situation. And Srila Prabhupada suffered two heart attacks. Anybody who knows or has seen somebody getting a stroke or a heart attack in their family, they will know how much care of that person has to be taken. So many restrictions on food habits, so many restrictions on how the body needs to rest and recuperate. And Srila Prabhupada suffered 2 heart attacks. And did that deter him from what he was doing? Absolutely not. Why? Because he had faith on the Lord. Srila Prabhupada said, let me dance, let me dance, let me dance, my Lord, as you desire. Because of his faith, that is rising above the body. Srila Prabhupada did that. All our spiritual masters, most of us, actually, most of us don't even see. But all our spiritual masters, they are not young. From the body perspective, they are not young. They have their bodily limitations. And how many times does it come out that spiritual masters are suffering from this? Absolutely not. Because they don't want to talk about it, and for them, the aim is I have to do what my guru has asked me to do. And where do they get that strength from? We saw His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. His example comes mostly because we have seen that Maharaj comes out and people see his bodily condition and then they appreciate. Maharaj has risen over his bodily concept, right? The point that I'm trying to make is, see, one thing is philosophically understanding we are not the body, we are soul, we are not the body, we are soul. That understanding is good. It is, in one sense, good, and it is needed also, because when we, theoretically train our mind that we are not this body, we are soul, then what happens is, when the senses push us, then that time we are able to make the distinction. Oh, this is really my senses pushing. This is needed. This is not needed. That intelligence comes to us by theoretically understanding, but that will not keep us in the long run. Why? Because it is difficult. The senses acting on us, it's difficult. And just by saying, in this world, people are so busy, they everybody has their own things to do, and unfortunately if we don't have proper association where you keep on going, and then you understand bhakti is simple but not easy. We have to put efforts towards it. So what is the thing that will make us rise above? What do our acharyas do? What did Srila Prabhupada do? What did Goswamis do? That how do we rise above the bodily concept? And I just want to, confess this. I'm always in bodily concept. Even for small headache, my mind goes there. But I want to, while speaking, I ask for blessing that I'm also able to realize what I'm speaking. I'm able to understand how we can rise above our bodily concept. And that comes when there is deep attraction and, absorption in remembering Krishna. Only then can one rise above the bodily concept. Why? Because when there is deep absorption and remembrance of Krishna, then what happens? We develop a relationship with Krishna. Actually, this when one practically develops a relationship with Krishna, that we see is a characteristic of Uttam Adhikari. Uttam Adhikari has a pure relationship with Krishna and he lives in that relationship. Madhyam Adhikari, we all know, right? Uttam Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, and Kanishta Adhikari. So Madhyam Adhikari also has a relationship. There is a beginning of relationship with the Lord. But Kanishta Adhikari is one who is always on the bodily concept. And uh, a characteristic of Kanishta Adhikari is always wants to make sure that everything is going properly with the body. And if anything is not going properly, then there is a lot of disturbance in the mind. And that disturbance causes us, talking about myself here, causes me to deviate or mellow down or make it diluted what I'm supposed to do every day to remember my goal, to remember the Lord, to serve the Lord. So that is the characteristic of a Kanishta Adhikari. Madhyam Adhikari, he or she is ready to, bear some physical problems to get above this bodily concept. And Madhyam Adhikari also realizes, because the spirituality is the topmost thing, and that is the main thing. So Madhyam Adhikari is ready to let go of the bodily pain, ready to bear some suffering at the body level to reach the level. But Uttam Adhikari is beyond tamas, beyond ignorance, perfect, pure. For them, living in relationship with Krishna, serving Krishna is the most important thing. And because they are so much deeply absorbed, they are able to do that. Their aim is serve Krishna, hear the glories of Krishna. All of that is done. They are naturally drawn towards Krishna. You know why? Because if you're not naturally drawn towards Krishna, what happens? It becomes a very difficult journey. You're not when do you live in a relationship when you are uh, uh, you are in relationship with someone when you hear about that someone, when you know about that someone, and you want to form a relationship. But if you are, theoretically only keep on saying, I'm not this body, I am a pure spirit soul. I'm not this body, I'm pure spirit soul. Okay, but how long can you say that? That will pull you down in one sense. You will find it very difficult. Um, if you don't have proper association, you don't have proper guidance, material energy will pull you down. And eventually, these people, they find spirituality very hard and they leave. So, to rise above the bodily concept, the two things that are most important is hearing about Krishna, being absorbed in remembering Krishna, doing activities which keep our mind away from Krishna, and staying in association of people who also have the same goal as we. Then only we can rise above this concept. And the one point that arises, like, so okay, you talked about Uttam Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, and Kanishta Adhikari. Where in the nine stages, like we understand from Shraddha to Prema, where in these nine stages do these three categories fill in? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given this liberal definition, and he says from the Shraddha stage up to the Anarth Nivritti stage, one is a Kanishtadikari. Then from the Shraddha to Anartha Nivritti is Kanishtadikari. Madhyam Adhikari comes on the Nishtha stage. And Uttam Adhikari comes at the Ruchi level. But some people say, why Ruchi level? No, no, it comes even higher. Comes at Bhava or Asakti level, like that stage. But if we see this Ruchi, what Ruchi means? Ruchi means taste. Taste, right? You have taste for something only when you have a relationship with that person. Otherwise, that person or that thing, you can say, I have taste for eating sweet. Why? Because you want to eat that. You think about it. You have tasted it and you want to continue. So that is a relationship. Relationship will only form when there is ruchi. So in that one sense, ruchi is very important. We have to develop taste, and that taste develops by constant absorption, constant service, constant remembrance in Krishna. So you know how it is said that our 2 hours of japa is dependent on the rest 22 hours that we have done. But what we do in those 22 hours is dependent how we have done the 2 hours of japa. So this is such a powerful statement, right? And it makes us realize that 24 by 7, we have to train our mind to remember the Lord. How Gaurang Prabhu, he says in the morning, beat your mind with a broom, because the mind is ready to move away. We have to beat it, we have to train it philosophically, mentally, theoretically. That is the first stage. And then practically by serving, by remembering. That is what we have to do. And actually, I was reading that Prabodhanand Saraswati, he talks a very nice point about Bhava. Prabodhanand Saraswati, who comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, who was a Sri Vaishnavacharya, and by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became a Gaudiya Vaishnavacharya, and he he says that in the bhava stage, the jiva doesn't have to put efforts to remember Krishna. Krishna is enthusiastically coming himself and revealing himself to the jiva. Like how we have to train our mind. Okay, Krishna is holding a beautiful flute. Krishna is singing. Krishna is wearing a peacock feather. Krishna is wearing the yellow dhoti. Krishna is having the kaustubha jewel, the Vaijanti mala. We have to train our mind. But in bhava stage, Krishna comes in our absorption. Krishna comes in our meditation. So before the bhava stage, the ruchi stage, we have to go step by step. But with this point, what I was trying to understand is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about, that the Madhyam Adhikari is at the Nishtha level is correct, and the Uttam Adhikari is at the Ruchi level. You know how to train the mind. Like we all know that example, that Brahma Vimohan Leela, when Lord Brahma comes to Krishna and he tells the doorkeepers, please go and tell Krishna that I want to meet him. And the doorkeeper comes back and tells Brahmaji, Krishna has asked which Brahma has come. So Brahmaji gets very bewildered, and finally he goes in front of Krishna and he sees all the Brahmas standing there. And all these Brahmas, they have so many jewels on their helmet and everything, and they are all going down. So imagine the how bright it would be when all the jewels, so many Brahmas shining. And it is mentioned, with all these jewels, all this shining glitter and shine over there, what was actually shining out the most was the toenail of Krishna. And I read it. It was written, the mother of pearl toenail. I was like, what statement is this? Mother of pearl toenail. So when we hear such statements, our mind gets attracted towards Krishna. Next time, I actually wanted to go in front and see Krishna. How Krishna's toenail is like mother of pearl toenail. That so many Brahmas jewels shining were lesser as compared to the toenail of Krishna shining. These points attract us to Krishna, and somewhere they stay in our subconscious mind. So Krishna is ready to give himself in his name, form, pastime, right? Nam, Rupa, Guna, Leela. He's ready to give. But now he's ready to give himself in his Nam. That means during Japa, Krishna gives himself to us. But there is a constant struggle how to do the Japa, how to rise beyond mechanical chanting. That constant struggle is there. So when we are constantly hearing about Krishna, his glories, then we can, the struggle is, it becomes little easier. That is why Nam, Rupa, Gun, Leela, when we are thinking about them, when we are thinking about pure devotees of the Lord, when we are hearing about the Lord, so many times I thought there the 9 processes of devotion, why is hearing only the most important? Like, why is it mentioned as the first one? Why are the other, why not something else? Why is Shravanam only the most important, and why is it the first one? Because Shravanam is the easiest and the deepest. That is one point that I could understand. Shravanam, what we have heard, stays in our conscious and subconscious mind. Even when we are subconscious, something that we have heard stays and gives us remembrance to the Lord. Gives that remembrance, leads us to a desire to serve the Lord, either in Archanam, Vandanam. Then we develop a relationship with the Lord, either in Dasyam, Sakyam, and finally we surrender to the Lord, Atmanivedana. But it all begins with Shravanam, and it is so important that we hear, and hear. We have examples in our temple. Shyam Kishore Prabhuji, so many, Bhagavad Prabhuji, everybody constantly hears. There has to be a constant hearing that goes on, because that hearing helps to control our senses and helps us to go to the remembrance level of the Lord. And so I was hearing a class by His Holiness Kadam Kanan Swami Maharaj. And Maharaj very nicely he said, This was very nice actually, because I was thinking, wow, great souls think like that. You know, in Bhagavad Gita, there is the spiritual bank balance verse. Do you know that Neha Vikrama? You know that verse, Shreya? No? Okay. So the verse is Neha Vikrama Nashasti Pratyavayo na Vidyate Swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. So in this verse, Lord is saying that in devotional service, there is no diminution. You know, whatever little that we do is considered great, and it goes in spiritual bank balance. So Maharaj is talking, he says, I was reading this verse and my mind tricked me into thinking that, okay, so this is going in bank balance. Now if it is going in bank balance, then there has to be some interest. Where is the interest? What is the interest? So the mind was tricking Maharaj, and Maharaj was actually thinking, okay, Krishna has never mentioned about interest part. Okay, it's going, it's getting saved, but where is the interest? Then Maharaj was reading Nectar of Devotion, and in Nectar of Devotion, the pastime of Mother Draupadi comes, and how Mother Draupadi, when Dushasan was disrobing her, first she holds the sari with one hand, and then finally she, puts both her hands up and calls out, "Hey Govinda!" Like that cry, ask any Mataji. When we are, why I'm saying Mataji? Because I'm in the bodily concept, I'm a Mataji. So that cry was so deep. And what was that cry for? That cry was for her own self, to protect her chastity. Right? She remembered Krishna because she was in distress. And the story we all know, Krishna supplied ample amounts of cloth, ample amount of saved her chastity. But in there it was Maharaj mentions that when he read that line, Krishna said, now hear what Krishna says. Krishna said, I am forever grateful, and my appreciation towards Draupadi increases every time when I remember that Draupadi remembered me and called out. And that's when Maharaj understood this is the interest. Krishna is grateful. Krishna is appreciating Mother Draupadi for remembering him, for calling out to him. She called out for her own thing. But Krishna, such a loving father he is, just because somebody called out to him, Krishna remembers that, and that is the interest. So then Maharaj said, I was thinking, okay, but interest, but how much percentage? What is the percentage of interest? And that percentage, Maharaj said, it is unlimited. Krishna is forever grateful. Krishna is forever appreciated. So whatever little that we do in devotional service goes on a long way. So yeah, when I read this, I was like, wow. So even in distress, when I'm calling out to Krishna, my Lord is remembering me and appreciating. I am calling out for my own thing. So just imagine how merciful, how loving our Lord is. You know, in I have studied in a convent school, so I was when I was small. Every year in the beginning of the school, when the school year begins, they had this mass mass kind of thing. So I was young. My parents had already told and signed that okay, so we follow a different religion, so she will not be going to the church. But I was young and all my friends were going, and I thought, okay, I can also go. So I also went for the. I clearly remember that. Like I have studied a big amount of time in convent, and our school itself had a church. I only went to the church one more time because my friend was in distress. So twice I have gone to the church. And the first time when I went inside the church, you know how, like how we have our altar, we can come here and stand, we can sit down, we can dance. But I remember when I went to the church, it is way too behind. And Mother Mary's statue is very high. And Jesus is way high, and we are supposed to kneel down. Like when that is the decorum, the teachers taught us this is how you go. You go there and then you kneel down on your knees and you're supposed to sit like this, and for a big amount of time, for how long it goes on, you're supposed to sit like that. So I was very scared because somewhere down in my heart my parents had said no, but I went. So I was scared, but I would always share everything what happened in my school with my mother. So I came home and I told her this is what happened in the moral science class. Today I went to the church, and my mother was she was she didn't say anything because she wanted me to complete. And then I told, mommy, my knees started paining, and I felt Jesus was so far I could not even talk to him. So the point that I was making, that impression was so strong in my heart and in my mind, because after that my mother said, "Yeah, that is the path they follow." But for us, she told me, "You go in a, like we have a temple in my house, in my maternal family. They have a temple, and the temple doors we only open, and the Lord is so close." So I can go, I can offer flowers. And that's when my mother realized, see, she's studying in a convent school. So she has to make sure that she has a relationship with the Lord. So we had this practice of offering bhoga lunch, my mom would offer dinner, my mom would offer. From that day onwards, she said the evening snack you will offer. And she made sure, because she wanted me to understand that we are a Lord is not far off. And we are very blessed that we are in this temple. We are in a process where we can understand making this Krishna the center of our life. What does it mean? Making Krishna center of our life means Krishna is the center of our life. Whatever we are doing is related to Krishna, whether it is eating, sleeping, walking, waking, working, anything. And that act that my mother told me, that time I did not, I was young, I was not cooking or anything. But that thing continued. And eventually a stage came when I was in my 10th grade, 11th grade, when evening snack, I started looking up recipes and I started cooking for the Lord. So we should remember that our Sanatan Dharma is very liberal, at the same time very strict. As much as we allow the Lord in our lives, that much the Lord allows us. I used to look forward that evening snack time because I used to think my Lord will be hungry. He ate lunch at 2 o'clock. Now dinner will be at 8 o'clock. In between, he will be hungry. That relationship strengthened my understanding and my bond with the Lord. Nothing that I made great progress or anything, but I am forever grateful that I was given this opportunity, and I can understand the Lord is there with us. He is not far off. That is one thing, like that story that we hear of Vrindavan, right? When the Pope goes to Vrindavan and the devotees are talking, and the Pope gets a call. And in that call, the devotees realize that the Pope is talking to the Lord. So the devotees say that, can we also talk? So he says, yes, you can talk, but make sure it's not too long. It's a long distance call. So the devotee talks, and then the devotee also gets a call. And the Pope realizes that the devotee is talking to the Lord. So the Pope says, can I also talk to your Lord? So the devotee says, you can talk. Yeah, yeah, and talk as much as you want. It's a local call. So, so the point that is important, this is a story, but the teaching is there that the Lord is ours. We should have that feeling of belonging, that the Lord is mine. The Lord is not somebody far out there. And to reach that stage that the Lord is mine, the most important thing is hearing and doing service and getting deeply absorbed in the services of the Lord, in remembrance of the Lord. Like in this verse also, right? Um, the purport, na hanyate hanyamane sharira. That means the soul cannot be, the soul is always there. The body gets diminished, the body gets worn out, but the soul is always there. So now that we are given this body, let's use this body as a vehicle to reach and develop a relationship with the Lord. That is most important. Let's not get trapped in the bodily concept that this is pain and that this is the I'm really talking to myself and begging for blessings that I can come out of this concept of body and be absorbed in remembrance of the Lord. So I think it's already 9:12, so I will stop here. Please forgive me if I spoke anything that was concocted or anything that was not right. The message is very clear, very pure of Srimad Bhagavatam. Whatever I spoke, if it caused a disturbance, it is my shortcoming. So please forgive me and please correct me and bless me. Anybody has any questions or comments or corrections online?
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. Give me so much, positive, attitude to go forward to the bhakti and so much charging up again, Mataji. आपने again, Mataji, फिर से पूरे point remind करा के again भक्ति में Mataji up and downs little bit होते हैं. Then आज class से Mataji फिर again energetic and go, you know, more forward, go to the bhakti always, Mataji. Thank you. Mari, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for the encouragement.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you. Wonderful class. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for the wonderful class.
Thank you. And
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
some of the cursor is not good. So we can end the class. Prabhuji, any comments, any corrections?
No, I think yesterday one lesson I was made you see according to the consciousness. So unless you have a level of at a certain level of consciousness, you cannot see transformation. And I'm saying it's not that we break through rise above here. So that's why I was thinking that I don't know what now has to elevate consciousness of Guru has to elevate the consciousness so that you can actually because I see the opportunity to make advancement. Yeah, and another thing that story with broken call up for herself. So I was saying like how much you don't pay for ourselves. That's the real thing. The real monster is not right. We can be absorbed in things, not what our treasure is. Every day, every day, another one says, never think of yours. Only think of what is present in the So, it's a really possible by the mercy of the pure devotees. Conditions kind of meditation. It's hard. I mean, it's a big thing. It is All you will see. Whatever is possible, you will see. And what you see, you cannot artificially imitate, you can artificially see. Like how much of what you will see there, or how much of what you will not will see there, determine what you do for it.